But we begin tonight with one of the biggest misconceptions about the Trump presidency, that there were no adults in the room. That's not true. There were plenty of adults. They just couldn't contain him and possibly didn't want to. Thanks to the January 6th committee, these so-called adults are sharing what they really feel about Trump's pursuit for power. We're talking about Trump's closest allies, his own people, narrating the case against him. With star witnesses that included none other than former Attorney General William Barr, a man who spent years defending and serving Trump, not the American people, but who, via video testimony, had this to say about his president's lies.
Crazy stuff, completely bogus and silly, and usually based on complete misinformation. They were idiotic claims, complete nonsense.
Strong words, right? On just how silly this was. A president so unwilling to listen to reason that Barr could barely do his job, saying Trump's false claims about the election contributed to his decision to leave the administration. Interesting. Curious. Because back in December 2020, the same month Barr announced the Justice Department's finding of no fraud in the election, he submitted this very weird, solicitous, and gratuitously fawning resignation letter, heaping praise over Trump's, quote, many successes and the unprecedented achievements he had delivered for the American people. Let's also not forget how Barr, who infamously lied about the Mueller report for Trump, told Newsmax that he would still vote for Trump in 2024 if he were the nominee. And then sometimes the adult in the room is your very own daughter, who in video testimony said that she accepted Barr's assessment of no fraud, but still joined her father for that so-called Stop the Steal rally at the Ellipse preceding the Capitol attack. We've also heard from Bill Stepien, Trump's campaign manager, talk about MAGA faithful. He claims he's a member of so-called Team Normal, and he testified that he distanced himself from Trump's lies. This is a Republican operative who was fired by New Jersey Governor Chris Christie amid the Bridgegate scandal, and who now works as a political consultant for candidates who are running on the big lie, including one who's primarying Liz Cheney. See, that's the thing about these adults in the room. Whether it's the image they are spinning to save face or the real possibility that a Team Normal faction did exist within the Trump campaign, we have to remember who these people are. These are Trump people, his aides, his foot soldiers, and his biggest cheerleaders. This isn't a story about the good Republicans versus the bad ones. It isn't about bad guys who became good. And it's certainly not a story about redemption. These are the bad guys. They say they oppose Trump's antics and nuttiness, but they sure were willing to walk right up to the line. They just weren't willing to cross it, to commit the ultimate crime of overthrowing the election and our democracy. And that doesn't make you a hero. This is also a story with much more to come, with Thursday's hearing focusing on Trump's pressure on Mike Pence. Late today, the committee highlighted the video deposition of Eric Hirschman, a White House attorney under Trump. The day after January 6th, Hirschman spoke with John Eastman, the lawyer who wrote memos arguing that Pence could overturn the election. Here's how that conversation went, according to Hirschman.
He started to ask me about something dealing with Georgia and preserving something potentially for appeal. And I said to him, are you out of your effing mind? Right? I said, I only want to hear two words coming out of your mouth from now on. Orderly transition. And I screamed, I said, I don't want to hear any other effing words coming out of your mouth, no matter what, other than orderly transition. Repeat those words to me. And I screamed that. He said, eventually he said, orderly transition. I said, good, John. Now I'm going to give you the best free legal advice you're ever getting in your life. Get a great effing criminal defense lawyer. You're going to need it. And then I hung up on him.
Wow. Joining me now is Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland, a member of the January 6th Select Committee. And Congressman Raskin, thank you for being here. That was some pretty interesting and definitive audio from Mr. Hirschhorn. It seems to me that everyone with a law degree who was in any way involved in listening to what Donald Trump and people like Rudy Giuliani wanted to do, with the exception of Rudy Giuliani and Eastman, understood that what they were describing was a crime. Do you agree that what we're hearing about are crimes?
Yeah, these are crimes. You know, what you need for crime is the fancy Latin word mens rea, which means intention. And given that Donald Trump and his whole entourage understood that the big lie was a big lie, they had a criminal state of mind. They had a criminal intention. They meant to deceive everybody and continue to drive their plot all the way up through January 6th. And what we're going to do in the next several hearings is take people through the various attacks on the rule of law in different critical governmental institutions, the Department of Justice, state legislatures, the vice president, all the way up until January 6th, where we see the convergence of this inside attempted political coup to overthrow the election with insurrectionary mob violence that Donald Trump incited and helped to unleash against the government.
I give you the quote of one Dan Rather, the great Dan Rather, and he tweeted this last night. He said, "Funny what people say when they're under oath and they don't that they didn't say earlier when it could have made a big difference. Actually, it's not funny at all. It's outrageous, a shame that will follow their names into history." And I say that because as we're listening to all of these people testify and tell what they know, it strikes me that they and William Barr really first among equals here knew that a crime was underway and being contemplated by the President of the United States. And no one said anything, nothing, to the American people. To me, this does not vindicate William Barr as he sits there comfortably laying out the case against Trump. It condemns him. What do you think?
Well, thank you for saying that. Just telling the truth about a president of the United States who is hell-bent on nullifying a presidential election and installing himself in the presidency for another 4 years doesn't make you a hero. And, I know what Bill Barr did on June 1st in that paramilitary riot that was leveled against peaceful Black Lives Matter protesters. And I saw the way that he defended Donald Trump at other points. But look, Donald Trump was so clearly on a collision course with the Constitution and the government that a lot of people decided to get off of the team at the last minute. And I appreciate the fact that they are telling the truth now. But I think you're right. In a moral sense, it doesn't make you a hero. It's a great relief to see all of these people, the chair of his, the campaign manager, Stepien, telling the truth, the Attorney General of the United States, all of these campaign aides. But we obviously don't want to overly lionize these people.
Right. And they had a duty to warn. I mean, the Attorney General wrote this, sycophantish letter on his way out. In a sense, that one might say he had a duty to warn. And yet there is a controversy inside the committee, at least that is what seems to be occurring, between the chairman, Congressman Benny Thompson, who chairs the committee, and some others who are saying, no, we're not going to do a filing to the DOJ. There's not going to be a letter to the DOJ saying that we believe these are crimes that have been committed. And Liz Cheney, who seems hell-bent on making sure that that actually happens. Where do you fall on that, on whether or not there should be criminal referrals made to the Department of Justice, since you agree that these are crimes?
Yeah, I don't think we have an actual conflict on the committee. I think we've got semantic confusion generated by the media because we did a bunch of criminal conferrals for criminal contempt of people like Scavino and Navarro and Meadows and Bannon. But there was a very specific statute that allows for Congress to make criminal referrals for acting in contempt of Congress. There's not a general catch-all federal statute that allows for Congress to make criminal referrals to the Department of Justice. So obviously, we have the power and the authority, and I think the duty to publish all the information we have about crimes that have taken place. We have even already committed ourselves to the proposition that crimes have taken place in the Eastman litigation when the judge asked us whether Eastman was covered by some kind of attorney-client privilege. And we said, number one, there was no attorney-client relationship between Eastman and Trump. Two, if there was, they've waived it. And three, even if they hadn't waived such a claimed relationship, the privilege doesn't attach if you're engaged in crime and fraud. And we laid out all of the crimes that we saw at that point that Donald Trump had been engaged in. And Judge Carter accepted that analysis, and he repeated those crimes. And he said he thought it was likely that Donald Trump had committed federal criminal offenses. So we've already committed ourselves to that proposition. But I think the ambiguity is there's not some kind of statutory formal structure for referring crimes to the Department of Justice. We can have our hearings, we can issue our report, we can state what we've found. And so ultimately, I don't think there's any difference between the chair and the vice chair on this.